So when we do our system of Aikido, there's a lot of times where we're delivering energy. And we're delivering energy most typically with the flat palm surface. And that flat palm surface, we think about, we get engaged with somebody who's shomanate, bam, we're hitting them with this flat palm. Or we get engaged with their elbow or something, oshi-toshi. Boom, we're pushing. Flat palm again. Lots of elements dealing with this flat palm. And the flat palm has a remarkable capacity of delivering energy to bridge. So if we're leaning at each other, and we pick up the front foot, yeah, we're forming this bridge relationship from the back leg through the back of the body. It encourages an isometric in the body for bridging, and also it has a tendency to do, for that bridge to become more accentuated the further it goes from the vertical surface toward the horizontal. So that it gets its maximum delivery. So if you think about it, we're going to push Daniel's face here, and we're in this vertical surface, and as we push off, and if I follow it down, the maximum delivery thing, if we're in a different kind of structure, say on his arm, it's vertical, into the horizontal. By the time it's in its horizontal, it's basically irrecoverable. If he tries to come up against this, bam, he's running into my body weight falling, bridging down into the earth, right? So this is very commonly known. We do this a lot. This is probably our default mechanism for when we're doing the system of kata that we train around here, right? Everybody's real familiar with that. Cool. Well, if you look around the Aikido world, particularly in the Tomiki world, you see a lot of variation from that, where you're saying, there's these guys that are doing stuff, and they're not doing the flat palm. They're coming right along the edge here. The pinky, the edge of the hand, the edge of the wrist down the ulna, on the upside of the arm, the edge down the side of the body, defining it like a line. Instead of a plane, a geometric plane, they're doing things with a line. And there's even the famous old story of Oba bringing in and saying, oh, Mr. Tomiki talks about doing this, I say doing this, and that it's a very big difference. It's tegatana, it's a line in space. And when you deliver the energy in the line in space, it has a different set of qualities. It's not quite the same. If I'm going to hit him with this line, it has a sharper sort of feel. You can tell the difference. It's like, ow, is it kind of cutting through? And you can understand why they would say, bam, this is doing something directionally that's more powerful in the horizontal plane, a lot like cutting with a sword out here, and it's a lot less what's going on in the vertical. I'm not necessarily too interested in this sort of line at the end of things down here. I'm a lot more powerful. So you have this continuum of people going like this and people going like this. But really, I'm just looking at it as geometrics. Geometrics. Flat plane, line. Then we have a bunch of application that gets in here where we're really interested in how this is in classical Chinese martial arts, they talk about this as the tiger's mouth. Between the thumb and the forefinger, this surface right here, and operating with the wrist involved with it, and the elbow involved with it, and the shoulder involved with it, so that it is one big fluid surface. And you can think about this as a curve. And this becomes very interesting because when we get our hands on somebody and we place these curving mechanisms into them, we do a lot that twists around and locks joints when we're operating in curves. And the curve, this mechanism, basically running down the top of the arm into this plane right here, has its greatest effect when you get a hold of vertical surfaces. So when this gets up and down, when this is in an up and down plane and you're operating, it has its greatest effect. When it gets into a horizontal surface, not so much, not nearly as powerful. But you get into a horizontal surface, say the back of his neck or the back of his arms, like this. When we start operating with these yoking or holding mechanisms, we thought about it before. Cool. And that's all mechanisms and things we've used before, but we haven't delineated out as forms of control in these geometric ways. So what do we got now? We got a flat plane, and we got a line, and we got a curve, right? And all that was like, okay, yeah, I've seen a lot of that. I've done a lot of that in Honduras. I've seen and done a lot of that in kata. If you think about, even though we tend to be very flat plane oriented, if you think about yang kata, for instance, and Jack's going to do the first one of yang kata, I come and grab and bam, look at this. Yeah, right here. This edge he's hitting me with. Boom. It's preserved right in there. It's happening right off the bat. You start seeing hand changes and works into higher kata, like in go kata, and you start seeing things pick up with this interior curve with the hands as well. So there's all sorts of times that these things are preserved, but just aren't rolled out as the obvious way to do stuff. I was watching a video of Mr. Ledger. He's a big teacher, very good stuff that he does. And he was talking about an Ueshiba teacher named Gleason at a seminar, was saying, yeah, you know, Ueshiba himself talked about that this element, when you put the flat plane on them, is earth, 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 because it's driving the body weight straight to the earth. You basically have this very flat plane happening all the time. And when you have these sharp lines, these things happening to him, that was fire, right? It's cutting through, it has a very sharp quality, it's hitting things that are more, think of Ayuch, has this sharp sort of sparking quality. This stuff is water. All the stuff that coils up, all the stuff that wraps around, all the stuff that spirals and works in this vertical plane like a waterfall, it's water. And that was just the basic 5-element theory stuff that was going on back in China and Japan. That was their way of explaining stuff to each other as a function of Taoist theory of how stuff worked. You had 5 basic elements. And that's as far as it went, but that was pretty good, because I was going, wow, I've never really put that together. Flat plane, earth, edge, fire, something, water. Nice symbology there, kind of interesting. I wonder what the other 2 are. There's 5 of them, right? And we'll get into that in a second, but before we do, I'd like you to just take a technique, a representative technique, something you like to do a lot. I think when I first messed with it, I did, Kota Taoshi, I think. Was that it? Yeah. I'm just coming to Kota Taoshi. Yeah, that's right. Because it's real simple to see it and feel it with earth. And I start with this and just concentrate on how the energy is being delivered in his body. Down, flat, flat. And ending it in a Rimi Nagi, if you like, or ending it in Kota Taoshi, however you like. It doesn't have to be that technique. And play with just that, and then say, okay, now we're just going to do water. And see what you wind up with. Just start winding the wrist around. I'm thinking about doing the same basic deal to him. I'm just winding up very differently because the action and element that you're working with starts affecting you differently. Cool? And fire. Boom, 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 boom. You have this very percussive kind of sharp element in it. So pick a technique that you like, something you enjoy doing, whatever your favorite is, your Chikui, and just walk through it with those 3 elements in mind. You don't have to stay just flat plane through the whole time. You can switch up a little bit. But as you're delivering energy to him, as you're concluding Kake, boom, here, here, here. You get very different effects out of his body, out of his nervous system, depending on what you're doing with those 3. Okay? Questions? Blank stares? Seem interesting at all?
It does feel very uniquely different in each one.
It is very uniquely different because we're delivering energy through different pathways in the body. Every pathway in the body that you deliver energy has its own isometric structure, has its own particular structure and its own unique qualities to it. And I'm not saying that we should go around doing this there and this here and this that. And I'm not trying to make a cookie cutter approach of it. I'm just interested in expanding our toolbox to include a broader range of what we find as useful and interesting stuff. Because if you're in the middle of a big project, like a rondori project with somebody who's difficult to handle, and your basic toolbox contains a hammer and a wrench and a screwdriver, and what you need is a socket set, and you don't have a socket set, you're screwed. Well, we have a socket set, we just often don't know we have it. You know, we have a lot of tools that sometimes we're not even aware of having because we're busy thinking, oh, it's always got to be a hammer job, or it's always got to be a screwdriver job. And we don't understand that, no. We got a wrench over here, we just haven't picked it up and played with it and examined how we operate with it. Cool?
Seems like under certain circumstances, you want to use any of those different tools in any of the techniques.
Exactly, I think so. I'm kind of interested in exploring the range and diversity of application using initially just these first three. But in a second, we'll get into the two spookier ones. Okay? All right, so pair up and let's get a partner and just pick a technique. Doesn't matter. You can do Kodotaoshi, Minakoshi, any particular Shomanate. Doesn't matter too much. And just in your own head, try to sort out, as you're delivering energy, what method do you want to employ here and what do you prefer? What have you never tried before, too? Because I know I've done, a few 100,000 of that, but I've only done a few thousand of this. And that's not quite as comfy as this, actually. So maybe there's a reason for that, you know. And I know I haven't done much of this. This is like doing the damn Vulcan mind meld thing when you put that on. But it's all kind of interesting, kind of useful, okay?